today I'm giving you a list of books that I want to reread in 2023. So 2022 was a year that I mostly read from my TBR cart. I actually made a concerted effort to just read my TBR books. But now that I'm getting round to having only about 50 books left, I kind of want to reread some of the books that I've not read for a little while and haven't had a chance to reread this year. So I've got them all stacked next to you and I'm just going to go over them. For some reason I've pulled all of some series and only the first book of other series. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I don't know why. I just have. So yeah, I'm going to go through all of them and hopefully not take up too much of your time, but these are the books that I basically want to reread in 2023. The first ones that I want to reread are the Magician's trilogy, which is The Magicians, The Magician King, and The Magician's Land by Lev Grossman. This is a series you've heard me talk about before. It's like a really adult Narnia. It starts off in The Magicians with our main character Quentin, who goes to take an exam, randomly pulled to take this exam for this school, and it's the weirdest exam you can think of. Like, it's clearly not normal. And then he finds out that he has been let in to a magical school. I know it's like a magical university, and I can't remember what it's called. But while he's there, he learns, when he was younger, he had these books that were his favourite books that were stories about Fillory. And as he's in, Fillory's kind of like Narnia, so it's like, you know, the first set of people got there through the wardrobe and ruled as kings and queens, but they were siblings, blah, 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 blah. So it is very much Narnia. But he has learned through time that he spent at this magical school that Fillory is actually real, and him and his friends end up going to Fillory, and other things happen around that. It is a dark, very, very dark adult novel or trilogy, so I would check trigger warnings going into this. It is probably the darkest thing I've read, which is saying not much, I don't think, to be fair. But yeah, I absolutely love this trilogy. The next is another set of books that I've not read for a little while, and that is the Beautiful Creatures series by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. So that's Beautiful Creatures, Beautiful Darkness, Beautiful Chaos, and Beautiful Redemption. I wanted to reread these this year, actually, because I just had this, you know when you just really want to reread something, and I ended up not rereading it. I watched the film and that seems to have kind of taken off the edge of really wanting to reread them, but I'm really looking forward to rereading these in 2023 because I don't know what it is, but I just really, really love this. I think it's the difference in the magic system and the way things work, but I can't remember anything that happens past this book. So I really just want to reread it and get back into that world. Basically, this follows, it's a YA, you know, your classic 2010-ish YA book. 2009, I was so close. Where you're in this small town called Gatlin, and Ethan falls in love with the new girl, Lena. Lena, who on her 16th birthday will become either a force for good or a force for evil, because she is a caster, and casters are kind of like witches in this world, but they sort of go either light or dark, and what happens is the male casters are always able to choose because they're not quite as powerful, but the female casters, especially in this family, because they're quite a powerful family, it is determined on their 16th birthday whether they're light or dark. And so far her mother went very, very dark, her cousin went dark, and Lena is terrified of going dark and hurting Ethan in the process, but they don't know that their lives are linked in a much deeper and further sort of way than they realise. So I don't know, I just love this. I love the predetermined thing, and I love that, I don't know, I just love the relationship they have. It might just be that I've not read it for so long, so we'll see. Next up is one that I've not pulled the full set down for because it's quite a chunky set, and that's Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I, again, have not read this for a while. I kind of went off YA, and now I'm not liking the new YA that I pick up, so I want to reread some YA that I know I really enjoy. This is the first really fantasy thing I read, and I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this idea of the the world being so sort of black and white, and then suddenly it's not. I don't know what it is about this, but I just love it. So basically this follows our character called Mare, who is a red, and this world is split into reds and silvers. I was going to say reds and golds, so I looked at the back. So the world is split into reds and silvers, and the silvers are like the high society people, and the reds are like the commoners, or the people that are sort of in servitude or slavery. And it's not based on like a sort of proprietary thing, but it is at the same time. So the silvers literally have silver blood, and the reds have red blood. The silvers also, with their silver blood, have these abilities. So there are specific families who rule, who are the strongest of that kind, and you have ones that can specifically have power over iron, water, air, fire, etc. So when Mare comes along and accidentally falls into this fight, so literally they have like a fight for the queen, so like each family is allowed to put through one woman from their family, or teenagers really, and they fight in this arena, Hunger Games style, until one is left and she becomes the queen. And then Mare, who's a red, falls into this arena and is not killed by the things that should kill her in this arena, and they realise that there's something different about her. So she is in fact a red with abilities, and this opens up this whole thing of like the silvers aren't as special as they think they are, and it can drag their infrastructure down. So yeah, I'm really happy about rereading this. In the series we have Red Queen, Glass Sword, King's Cage, Warstorm and Broken Throne, and then there's a short story collection called Cruel Crown. And I will be hopefully rereading all of them. The next one is just a standalone, and that is How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. This is probably my favourite Matt Haig book, even over the Midnight Library, which I absolutely loved. I don't know what it is about this book, but I just fell in love with this book when I read it the first time, and I really want to reread it to see if it holds up. It basically follows our main character Tom, who discovers that he is one of these rare people who is born once every so often, who doesn't age naturally, so he ages so slowly that he's basically immortal, and the sort of people that look after them, like they kind of police themselves, they have this one rule, and is that you don't fall in love with, you know, a human, a person that's normal, and he breaks this rule and has a child, and things kind of go awry from there, and it's basically him going through, someone's after him, and he's going through the memories of his life to try and work out what has happened and who is coming after him. And I just really enjoyed, I don't know what it is about this, but I just loved it so much. The next is another series, and again I've not brought all the books, I've just brought one, and that is the Dan Brown books for, what's his name again? Robert Langdon. This is the first one I've read, the Da Vinci Code, but there's also Angels and Demons, The Lost Symbol, Inferno and Origin, and I basically want to start again at the start and reread them. I don't know if I'll reread Angels and Demons because it's probably my least favourite. My favourite is The Lost Symbol, then Da Vinci Code, then Inferno, then Origin, then Angels and Demons, so we'll see, but Angels and Demons is the first one. I just prefer the Da Vinci Code. This follows Robert Langdon, who is a cryptographer, I believe he's called. He is a Harvard professor, and he is excellent at breaking codes and ciphers. So basically this follows stories of him being called into these places to break ciphers, and it's kind of like almost murder mystery told from his perspective. I really like it, and I don't know how to explain it, but I just love Robert Langdon as a character, and I love watching him sort of bumble his way through all these mad situations. Next up is another trilogy that I have not picked up all of because it's heavy and it's up high, and that is the Magnus Chase trilogy by Rick Riordan. I am rereading the Percy Jacksons, but I also want to reread Magnus Chase. I don't think I'll redo the Apollo books, but I definitely want to reread Magnus Chase books. So there's Magnus Chase and the Sword of Summer, Magnus Chase and the Hammer of Thor, and Magnus Chase and the Ship of the Dead. This is all embroiled in Norse mythology, and I find it so interesting. I've learned more about Norse mythology more recently, so I would love to reread this and actually have a look at what it involves in this book, or in this trilogy really. The next is another series that I really want to reread, and I've been putting off and putting off, but I really want to reread again, and that is the Vampire Academy books. There are 6 in the main one. This is my anniversary, 10th anniversary edition, and it's just the first one I grabbed. So there is... So in this series there is Vampire Academy, Frostbite, Shadow Kiss, Blood Promise, Spiritbound, and Last Sacrifice. I absolutely adore these. I love this story, I love these books, I love the characters, and I just want to dive back into it again. I don't know if I'll read the ones that come afterwards, the Bloodlines books, but I'm definitely going to reread the Vampire Academy books. So the next couple are again some more vampire series, and one is the Vampire Diaries. I have pretty much collected most of these books. I stopped collecting them once I realised that they'd started using a ghostwriter for L.J. Smith, because the story just kind of took a left turn and like made absolutely no sense. So I've got up to I think number 8 in the Vampire Diaries, and I will be reading up until there, and then I will stop and just pretend that that is the end of the series. I've not read these in so long, and I used to eat them up, so I really want another chance of rereading it. This follows our main character Elena, and she is sort of thrust into this world of vampires and other creatures. It definitely sways off, well, to be fair, the TV series is nothing like this, really, other than they take the names. So you've got Elena and her friends, Bonnie, Meredith, and Caroline. Meredith is not in the TV series, by the way, but she is one of the best characters. And then you've got Stefan and Damon Salvatore, who you get to know through these books. It's just, so much goes on in these books. There's so much lore and so much behind it. They have kitsune, they have original vampires, they have this underground world that they go to where humans are slaves, and it's just, I think, fantastically done by L.J. Smith, and you can really tell when they started using a different writer, but slapped her name on it. So, more vampires, and that is my Lindsay Sands Arjanu series. At the moment, there are in fact 37 of these books. I'll see if I can get them all up on screen to tell you their names. So this is in absolutely no order other than what my thing has done, because this is definitely not the order, or is the order in here? No, this is too old to have all of them in it. So there is Tall, Dark and Hungry, Love Bites, A Quick Bite. This is the first one, A Quick Bite. A Bite to Remember, Bite Me If You Can, Vampires Are Forever, The Accidental Vampire, Single White Vampire, Vampire Interrupted, The Renegade Hunter, The Immortal Hunter, The Rogue Hunter, Hungry for You, Born to Bite, The Reluctant Vampire, Under Vampire Moon, The Lady is a Vamp, One Lucky Vampire, Immortal Ever After, Vampire Most Wanted, The Immortal Who Loved Me, About a Vampire, Immortal Nights, Runaway Vampire, Immortal Years, Immortal Unchained, Vampires Like It Hot, Twice Bitten, Immortal Born, The Trouble with Vampires, Immortal Angel, Mile High with a Vampire, Meant to Be Immortal, Immortal Rising, After the Bite. Those are all the books. She releases one like once every 6 months, so I absolutely love getting into these as soon as I get them. It only takes me a little while to read them because they're so short, and they're like those kind of books that are just like, they're all kind of the same story, just repackaged for different characters. This is probably my favourite series of all time, hands down. I love it. I love it, and I cannot wait to reread it and sort of get back to the start of the story and watch it all develop again, because I've not read this for so long. So the next is a historical fiction that I feel is thoroughly underrated, and that is The Lost Book of Salem by Catherine Howe. Catherine Howe is in fact an author who is related to 2 of the women that were killed at Salem for being witches, and this is a kind of historical fiction that reflects this. So this is about our main character, who is called Constance, or Connie, and she is clearing out her grandmother's cottage for sale and finds this scroll with the name Deliverance Dane on it. Deliverance being one of her ancestors, who was also a witch that was tried and killed at the Salem witch trials. But as it is with, you know, this sort of fiction, turns out the family actually does have magic, and now there's someone after Constance because of that magic, and she has to figure out what the hell is going on. And I just think this is phenomenal. The way the cottage is described, the way that Salem in the area, the Massachusetts area is described is just beautiful. I just absolutely love this book. I think it's amazing, and it works on etymology as well. So she has trouble finding family members because there is a discrepancy within how things were said and spelled. So for example, the name Mercy, she couldn't find a Mercy in the Mercy Dane was who she was looking for. She couldn't find the name Mercy Dane in the books that she was looking for, of like historically written down. But then she hears someone, because she's in the sort of Boston area, she hears someone with a very strong Boston accent say Mercy, and what he says is Massey, which sounds like Marcy. And because there was no standardised spelling at the time when these things were written down, they were written down phonetically, so Mercy became Marcy, and so she was able to find Marcy Dane. And it's things like that, the way she discusses the language and the development of American English and things like that, it just is so interesting to me. So I definitely think you should pick this up if you have any interest in historical fiction. It's kind of like Babel, but a lot lighter in the sense of like the etymology and things like that, and she studies the historicalness of it. So it's kind of like, I would say it's like a light version of Babel mixed with a discovery of witches is what this book is. Okay, next is another trilogy that I've not read in so long, and by so long I mean since I was working at the place I stopped working in like 2018. And that is Frostblood. So there's Frostblood, Frostblood, Fireblood, and Nightblood, I believe the third one is called. This follows our main character, who is a Fireblood, but she is in the land that is ruled by the Frostbloods. But obviously there's something special about her, and she wants to get into our family's killed basically, and she wants to take revenge on the king, and in doing so she discovers more about herself and about this warrior Arcus, who is trying to help her at this monastery. It sounds like a mad ride, but I absolutely love it. I can't even explain it, it's been that long since I've read it, but I absolutely loved it, and the audiobook was fantastic. I think I've still got it on Audible, so I can read and read at the same time. Next up is one that I'm obviously rereading because I keep saying I'm going to do a dedicated vlog, and that is Mary Lewis, Supernatural Sisters. This is the first one, Who's Afraid. I could talk about this until I'm blue in the face, and I will in that vlog, but I'm not going to do it now. This is following, each book follows a different woman in this world full of supernatural creatures. It's our world, but supernatural. Who's Afraid, Who's Afraid 2, and Who's Still Afraid follow Tommy Grayson, who is a werewolf, and in the first book she is just discovering that she is in fact a werewolf because it goes through family trees rather than bite transference or anything like that. And there is a government sort of thing called the Tres, who are corrupt, and Tommy gets involved, and all the other women who are in each of the books get involved. It's basically this fantastic ass-kicking feminist supernatural paranormal romance. Like, I cannot give enough praise to Mary Lewis. Literally, I cannot give enough praise to her for these books. I absolutely love them, and they're very, very unknown, so please give it a go and see what you think, because they're fantastic. This and The Witch at the Court of Death, Witch Who Courted Death, are my two favourites. So I would say give those two a try. You can read The Witch Who Courted Death before reading the other ones, that's fine, but the others do have an order to them, but that is before. It's kind of like a prequel. This is like the start of the main story, and then the Witch Who Courted Death is a prequel about Casper and Creeper. So yeah, I'm going to shut up now. Next is another Rochelle Mead trilogy, and that is the Glittering Court. So you've got the Glittering Court, the Midnight Jewel, and the Emerald Sea. This is a great trilogy actually, that I feel is not, I've not heard much about it. Did I pick this up because it looks like the girl who plays Rose in the Vampire Academy books? Maybe. But basically this is about the Glittering Court, which is a school almost that takes women from this one place. So there's this like kingdom or whatever, and women who are low in society and have very poor prospects are taken into the Glittering Court. Like, they apply for it, they don't just get like kidnapped. They go to the Glittering Court on the basis that they will train them to be ladies, take them to this other place that is like a homestead that is starting up, who need women and fresh blood basically to be wives. And they know that this is happening, they know that this is the process, they know that they're technically going to be like sold effectively, but it's different because you have to meet them and like you get to know them and they all have to agree, but they know what they're going into basically. And this is about our main character, whose name I can't remember because it's been so long. So this one is about Adelaide, who is actually not of poor standing. She is a very wealthy, she is part of a very wealthy family, but she is about to be married off to someone she does not want to be married to, and she has no choice but to run away. So she runs away with the Glittering Court and has to try and pretend that she is not already a lady, just to try and get away from, you know, these people. The other two follow two of the girls that she is with on the ship. One is a lovely red-haired, green-eyed girl who is trying to be the best. She wants to be the best. She wants to be the diamond of the court because they rank them in terms of colour, like colour stones and rarity and things like that. And so she wants to be the best. She wants to pull herself out of this sort of low-level society that she has found herself in through birth and pull herself up to the highest point, have a rich husband. She doesn't care if she loves him, she just wants the best for herself. And then there is Mira, who is a black woman who is seen as sort of not wanted in the regular society before they go to the other society, and she's basically leaving because she's done with her crap. But she is also a little bit of a vigilante. So yeah, this is they're all really interesting, they're fantastic. And the middle one is called, or it's really the last one to be fair. Yeah, I can't remember her name. I'm terrible at character names, but I am really looking forward to rereading this. Okay, again with another trilogy. I seem to have a lot of trilogies on my shelves that I want to reread. But that is the P.S. No, To All the Boys I've Loved Before, P.S. I Still Love You, and Always and Forever Lara Jean by Jenny Han. This is a trilogy that follows Lara Jean, who is a high school student who is just soft and fluffy, and she bakes, and I believe she's Korean American. Her mum has passed away recently, and her dad and her sister are kind of struggling their way through that grief. But then one day her sister takes it upon herself to send all the letters. So Lara Jean, what she does is she writes letters to kind of get her feelings out. So she has written all these letters to these boys that she was in love with to kind of get it out of her system and get over it. And her sister decides in one night in anger to send these letters out, and all sort of spirals from there because these boys receive these letters and it gets awkward. But yeah, this is a beautiful love story throughout, and it's so interesting and so nuanced for a YA, and I just really love it. Lara Jean is a great character. Like I say, she bakes and she's just a soft, fluffy, squishy, like cutie pie. I feel like the adaptations have done a really good job as well, so if you've seen them, I think you'll like the books. If you've read the books, I think you won't. I think you'll be fine with the adaptation. And if you've done neither, do one of them. Next up is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I read this 1 year for Whatever-a-thon because it was the team colour was pink and this is a pink cover. I actually really enjoyed this. It's quite a hard book, but I think it's a fantastic story to tell. So it is about Vanessa, who when she was at high school had a relationship with her teacher, who was obviously much her senior. And this skips between now and then, when she's 14, and having this relationship with the teacher, and now when the Me Too movement is kind of getting traction behind it, and it's starting to come out that this teacher has not only abused Vanessa, but has abused other girls. And Vanessa to this day still believes that what they had was a relationship, and blames herself a lot for it falling apart because she got older, which, you know, to me, that's obviously a massive red flag, but she was groomed from a young age by this man. And sort of Vanessa's realisation that this was abuse and that it wasn't consensual, regardless of how she felt at the time. It was abuse, and I thought this was a fantastically written book from the victim's point of view, from a victim who isn't a victim in the sense that they're automatically traumatised by it. It's a victim who is conflicted, a victim who believes in the abuser, a victim who doesn't realise they've been abused and then has to come to terms with that, and the sort of the confliction that breeds within her. This is massively triggering to anybody who's been in some of these situations, but I just found it to be a fantastically well written story, and an honour, I suppose, not an honour, but like a tribute to those who have been victims to this sort of abuse. Going to something a bit lighter, the next is the Winter Night trilogy. So we've got The Bear and the Nightingale, The Girl in the Tower, and The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden. I absolutely loved this when I read it. I love this trilogy. This was a fantastic trilogy. The first one was really slow, and I really considered DNFing it, but I had the whole trilogy, so I was like, no, I'm going to push through, and I'm so glad I did. This really builds up Vasia's life as a child in the first one, and she lives in rural Russia as Christianity is just becoming a thing in that area, and the little villages still have these spirits and like woodland spirits, lake spirits, house spirits, things like that, you know, keep the fire going and help with the cooking and the cleaning, and it's beautiful. Vasia can see them, as could, I believe, her mother, but then when she gets a new stepmother who is devoutly Christian, things start to sort of untangle, and she believes that Vasia is possessed or in need of cleansing, and things go wrong from there. And it's I believe a retelling of, I think it's The Beautiful Vasia, along with some other Russian folktale, but I just absolutely love this trilogy, and it also hurt me in many ways. If you know, you know. But yeah, I look forward to rereading this now that I know what's to come. Next up is Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I read this again a while ago and I really enjoyed it, and I basically just want to have a good time with it again. I really liked this. I wasn't as big a fan of One Last Stop, and I'm not going to read Shara Wheeler, so I really want to reread this because I thought it was a fantastic sort of alternate universe version of the United States and the UK political landscapes. This was really fun. That's all I can really say. It is about the first son of the United States, Alex, and Prince Henry of the UK. Yeah, Henry. And they get accidentally into a bit of a fight, and it is photographed by the press and put out to the public, and they are kind of told, you have to make this right. You have to fix this image. We can't let people think that you two hate each other. So they get forced to spend time together and then start to fall in love with each other. And then there's the whole, oh, but we really shouldn't be doing that either aspect of it. And I just love it so much. It's such a good book. Such a good book. Okay, we're almost there, I promise. Two more to go. The first is a trilogy, and that is the Brown Sister trilogy. So you've got Get a Life, Chloe Brown, Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and Act Your Age, Eve Brown. These follow each of the Brown sisters, so Chloe, Danny, Eve, and each is a different story about them kind of finding themselves and a romance. So Chloe has fibromyalgia and kind of has been coddled by her family because of that, because of her disability, and has a near-death experience and decides she's going to move out and has this bucket list of things that she wants to do to help get her to get a life. And then she meets Red, who is kind of like looking after the building that she lives in, and he helps her to complete that list. Danny, she is accidentally swept up in a publicity stunt. So there is a fire drill at work, and she didn't realise that it was a fire drill, and she gets caught in the lift, and the security guard, who has a massive crush on her, rescues her and carries her out of the building, and they get caught on like film and camera and stuff like that. They go viral. He has a charity that he runs, so he then asks Danny to pretend to be his girlfriend for this charity to help, and they have this deadline up until this event, and obviously they end up actually together because it's a romance, but it's not a smooth road, and Danny's very much resistant to it. The guy, whose name Zafir is an ex-rugby player who runs this charity for mental health and has severe anxiety. The anxiety rep in this was fantastic, and the way it's dealt with was fantastic. I just think Talia Hibbert is an incredible writer. Eve Brown as well. So Eve is cut off by her parents for being a giant child, basically is how they put it. They don't think she's responsible. She jumps from job to job to job and can't keep a job, and then she goes on a whim, she sort of runs away, finds herself at this place, her hiring, this little B&B, her hiring a new chef, goes in to apply. The owner, who is called Jacob, is very rude, and then as she's leaving, hits Jacob with a car and decides to help Jacob with the B&B by cooking, and it's their romance. Jacob himself is autistic. I don't know how well the autistic rep is done in here because I don't know what that's like, but that's partially why he's so rude to her, because he is very resistant to change, and she is a massive bomb of chaos, basically, which to anybody who doesn't like change is a massive thing. And I love these two together. This is great. Eve standing up for herself, to her family, you know, I just love the way that Talia Hibbert has done each of the Brown sisters in such a different way, with so many different things in so many different ways. It's just fantastic. There is a read along for the Brown Sisters trilogy. I will tag it below. I came across, somebody retweeted it on Twitter, and I am going to reread these anyway, so I will join in with that. The last is another historical fiction that I feel is very underrated, and that is Revolution by Jennifer Donnelly. This is about a girl who ends up moving in with her dad, who has went to stay in France. It's not Alexandrine, that's the one in the past. Andy. That's why I picked up. The main character's name is Andy, spelled A-N-D-I, the same as mine. And Andy is like a musical prodigy. And at the same time, because her parents are, I believe, separated, or her mum died, I can't remember because it's been years since I've read this. She stays in France with her dad and kind of pushes against being there, pushes against everything, basically. And she has this paper she has to get in about for a music class, basically, and she ends up with the family that they're staying with in France, her family friends. She ends up finding stuff in their house as they're unpacking, because they're all like antique stealers and stuff that relate to people back in the time of the French Revolution. But then Andy, it's her brother's death, that's what it is. Her parents have separated and her brother has died, her little brother. But then Andy gets pulled back. She gets lost in the catacombs in Paris and gets pulled back in time into the body of this girl called Alexandrine, who is the governess to Louis, who was the child, the Dauphin, I believe, during the French Revolution, and she learns to care for him, and then he is obviously taken away and put in the Tower. And it's just basically, she keeps going back and forth between these two lives, kind of dealing with the grief of her brother and sort of bringing that out because of the way Louis has been treated and the fact that she sees Louis very similar to her little brother. While also, I think she becomes friends with a famous musician in Paris at the time, and I mean, like, I'm talking like someone like Mozart or Bach or something like that. So she bases her study when she's in the present time on their music and the evolution of music, and it's so fantastically done. It was about music, historical Paris, which I love, and the main character's name was Andy. I was going to pick it up, and it was an astoundingly beautiful book, so I'm really looking forward to rereading it again. Okay, so that is all the books that I want to read. Like, these are the ones that I really, really, really want to reread this year. But that's a lot of books. I've not even counted that up, and that's a lot of books. One of them has 37 books in the series, and there will be another one out in April and another one in September for that series. The rest of these, I believe, are completed series. They're literally all around me. I'm surrounded by books right now. It is both heaven and hell because I love books, but it's a mess. So yeah, if you have read any of these books, please let me know what you think. If you're interested in any of these books, please let me know what you think. And if you want to buddy read any of these books, please let me know down below. So yeah, I'm going to go, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a happy Vlogmas, and have a happy Christmas, or whatever you're celebrating at this time of year, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!